Hello and welcome to my very first episode in my channel where I am going to be sharing my life experiences with the hope that it is going to encourage and uplift somebody out there. My name is Lucy. I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. My earliest memories are of what my mom and dad have told me. They said to me when they got married, they initially lived in a place known as Riruta Satellite. Yes, they lived in Riruta Satellite, which is part of Nairobi, but because I was little, I do not have any recollection of Riruta Satellite. My earliest memories are of when we moved to Kariobangi South. Kariobangi South is Eastland's part of Nairobi. So I remember vividly living in Kariobangi South when I was little, and my earliest memories go to when I started nursery school. So I went to a nursery school known as St. Joseph's Nursery, and it was somewhere in Jericho. Jericho is still in Eastlands, Nairobi. So my earliest recollection was of me going to that nursery school, and in the afternoon, I remember after lunch we had a nap for maybe an hour or so, and when we woke, we had a snack, and it would be time for parents to come and collect us. So those are my earliest memories, going to nursery school somewhere in Jericho. The name of the nursery school was St. Joseph Nursery. I must have been there for a year because that's normally how long children attend nursery school. So soon it was time for me to start my primary school. And even though there was a primary school where we lived in Kariobangi South, I don't know why mom and dad decided to take me to a school in Eastleigh. So they chose St. Teresa's Girls Primary School in Eastleigh, and my dad would drop me at school on his way to work. He was a civil servant, and there were times when he would not be available because his work sometimes took him out of Nairobi, so he would not be available. And as time went by, I think both mom and dad realized that it was time for them to start teaching me how to use the public transport system. So I remember my mom took the lead on this, and she would take me, we would go together, get on the bus, and she would take me to school, and then in the afternoon at around 3 p.m. she would come for me, because like I said, there were days when dad was not available, therefore mom had to do this. As we go through my life experiences, you will realize that as time goes by, mom is going to have 6 other children, and even by the time I was joining what we called standard 1, I had a little brother. So it must have been very difficult for mom to kind of balance taking me to school and picking me up at 3. So she quickly came up with a plan, and after a short while she had empowered me, and I could get on the bus independently, go to school, and bring myself back home. So my mom, I want to thank her very much for what she did. From a very tender age, she showed me the ropes of life. She made sure that I could take myself to school and come back. She pointed out what I needed to know, which is basically being aware of your environment, what to look out for when you're out there. And these things she taught me from a very early age are still with me up to now. When I go somewhere, there are things I am looking for. It just comes naturally, and obviously this was put in me by mom when I was very little. A big thank you to mom and dad. They did a wonderful job. So there I was, this little girl. I would wake up, get on the bus, and public transport in the 70s was provided by Stagecoach, if I am not wrong. I think it was initially Stagecoach that operated most of the transport in Nairobi, and it got to a point they changed probably management, and the name changed to Kenya Bus Services. But I remember at one point it must have been it must have been our Stagecoach. So I would get on that bus, and those days the buses had a conductor and the conductor would come, issue you give him money, and he will issue you with a ticket depending where you're going. And I remember most of the time I never paid. Somehow they never asked for my fare, and I would end up with a few shillings in my pocket. And it was those few shillings in my pocket that unfortunately introduced me to like junk food. As I grew up, I just fell in love with things like chips, ice cream, lollipops, samosas, sausages, all the wrong food. It was because when I got on those buses, I most of the times I never paid, so I got a free ride, and obviously mom had given me bus fare, and what was left or what I didn't use kind of was my pocket money. So mom gave me those independent skills from a very tender age. I would say of maybe 6 and 7. I took control of my own transport. I would take myself and bring back myself home when dad was not available. Obviously when dad was around, if he was not in the field, then he would take me to school and I would find my way home after school. So that was a very lovely part of my life. The estate was very clean. Remember, Kenya had just gotten independence. The population of Nairobi was not so high, so the local authority could actually provide services. Because I remember we had rubbish bins. They were metal ones. Yes, we had rubbish bins. Every household was allocated a rubbish bin that would be collected by the city council. I don't remember the frequency of the collections, but probably once or twice a week the city council would come with the trucks, and we would stand there in amazement and look at the city council employees emptying the bins, and it was lovely. So they collected the bins, and in addition to that, we had city council employees who made sure that the grass was cut in the estate. They would pick litter. They would during the rainy season spray areas that had stagnant water. So I think this was a campaign against malaria, because we know mosquitoes lay eggs and breed in stagnant water. So the city council would come, you would see the city council employees spraying areas that had stagnant water during the rainy season. So things actually worked in Nairobi. There was a system and things worked. I've talked about transport. We had the transport provided by Stagecoach, which later changed to Kenya Bus Services. We also had regular collection of rubbish and the maintenance of I would say open lands and parks and fields. They were maintained by then city council. So things ran smoothly in Nairobi. And again, I have said this was immediately after independence, and the population in Nairobi was low. So there was enough to go around, and things actually worked in Nairobi. We didn't have these huge traffic jams. It was quite orderly and nice and neat. So those are my early memories in Nairobi, and they are full of fond memories packed with laughter. We had a lot of good time together as a family. We lived in a small house. It wasn't massive, it wasn't a big house, it was only a little house, but it was full of love, full of laughter. We never lacked. My father was the sole breadwinner. My mother was a housewife, so she stayed at home and looked after us, and dad went out there to earn a living, and he was a very, very good provider. The best dad anyone could ever ask for. We never slept hungry. We were never sent away from school due to lack of school fees. He paid our school fees on time. He made sure we had everything that we needed, to have a normal life. So I would like to just pay a big tribute to my dad, who later on, as we go through my life, you will find out we lost him, but he was the greatest dad ever. All the memories are in my heart. He would go out of his way and organize to take us to the national park. There were times he would just surprise us and say we're going to visit, say, relatives. That was Saturday and Sunday. It was family time, and we would go visit relatives or go to the national park. I remember there's a time he took us to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for a trip, a family trip, family outing, and we went there. I think those days there were no security restrictions. You could actually go in there on a visit, just to have a look around the airport and see what happens in an airport. So all those things dad did for us. He took us to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and after the trip, obviously, we sat down and you had lunch, maybe a soft drink, chips and sausages. He was a lovely dad, a very, very good dad, and I miss him dearly. So then, yes, I went to St. Teresa's Girls Primary School, and again, I thank my parents for that choice, because St. Teresa's Girls Primary School, we had children from different backgrounds. We had children from other tribes, we had children from East African countries, for instance, Uganda, Tanzania, and you'd also find the occasional Asian girls, or I think we had a white girl in our school. Remember, this was when Kenya had just attained independence. Therefore, there were special schools, kind of like where you would find certain communities taking their children to. So St. Teresa's was one of them, and I went to school with children from different nationalities and backgrounds. As we go through my life, you will discover that this exposure from a very, very tender age, primary school, has played a big role in who I have turned out to be. I'm very comfortable around all sorts of people from different nationalities, different backgrounds. When I see a person, I see a human being. That is all I see, nothing else but a human being. And this goes back to my primary school, because I went to school and interacted with children from different background. So St. Teresa's Girls Primary School was just for girls, but across the road we had St. Teresa's Boys Primary and Secondary School. So I went to the girls section. It was purely a girls' school. and I had a good time there. This is where I learned how to swim. And later on, when I had my daughter, when I said to her, "Do you know mommy can swim?" She looked at me and said, "Can you really swim?" And I said, yes, for your information, I can swim. So St. Teresa's Girls Primary School, we had a swimming pool, and that was part of the extracurricular activities, and that is where I also learned how to swim. So those were my early memories. Like I have said, when Nairobi was Nairobi and the society was different, children were left to be children. We would just play out there. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have a lot of toys. I remember the only toy I had was one doll, and I think I kept singing and reminding my daddy, "I want a doll, I want a doll." And one day he went and got me a doll, and that was wow. I kept that doll for many years. So we didn't have a lot of toys, we didn't have tablets, we didn't have mobile phones, there was no internet, but the fun and laughter that we had, you cannot even compare it to the current generation. We learned how to socialize. We created a lot of new social skills. So we knew how to make friends, we knew how to just be children, and it was fun. It was lovely. You just, after school, you go out there, play with your neighbors, have a laugh. And like I said, those days we had only one broadcaster, that was the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Actually, no, it was Voice of Kenya when I was growing up. And Voice of Kenya, so we had only one channel, and the station would open at 5. So really, when you come from school, there's nothing to do apart from maybe listen to the radio. So you would just go out there and play, waiting for 5 p.m. when the station will open. Then you come, maybe watch a program while you get ready for supper, and eventually, obviously, it will be bedtime. So those were very good days. We didn't have 1,000,001 channels. We didn't have a lot of distractions. So children were children, and they were protected by the society. You trusted your neighbor. You could even leave instructions with your neighbor. When my daughter comes, please let her stay here because I'm rushing to the market. So those were very good days. And I've talked about the transport system, which was operated by Stagecoach. And I think if we had matatus, there weren't so many matatus. To be honest, I only remember the bus services, and it was well organized. It ran efficiently and on time. There was not a lot of cars out there on the road, so things were kind of organized, and it was very different. It was a lovely environment. Like I have said, I would love just to take a step and go back into those days and just live that peaceful life. So then I've also talked about the services that were provided by the Nairobi City Council. They collected rubbish. We had rubbish bins. The grass was well looked after. It was cut. They sprayed around during the rainy season, and unfortunately all that has changed. I don't know what happened, but I would say probably one of the reasons that things have changed is Nairobi population has exploded. So there's so many people in Nairobi, and probably the city council is struggling to provide services. I'm lucky, and I'm among the few lucky ones who knew Nairobi when Nairobi was Nairobi, nice, quiet, clean. we had running water in the taps, because currently at the moment I think there are some estates where really they can't remember the last time they saw water in their taps. Fortunately, when I was growing up in Nairobi Eastlands, Kariobangi South, we had water running in the taps, and it was very, very good life, full of memories, activities, laughter, joy, and I really, really miss those days. So that is all I have for today. Join me next time when I will be talking about my experiences after primary school. I'm sure you would like to know what happened to Lucy after St. Teresa's Girls, what happened to her. We will talk about these things next time. Bye for now.